Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, anyone. We have here three of the most famous people you can find in the world for the Power BI. Christian Wade, clicky, clicky, draggy, droppy. Adam Saxton, yo! And Justyna, the person behind all AI features in Power BI. And I'm lucky to have all of them here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having
really
us.
Appreciate it.
I was excited when I heard that we were going to have this interview with you. So, yeah, good.
Thank you.
I'm happy you gave me an opportunity to sit down. That's really what I'm happy about.
And I'm just happy to talk about
Thank
AI
you.
to the world.
I appreciate that. How do you feel about the whole Ignite this year?
It's good. The vibe is good. A lot of people at the booth are very excited about Power BI.
Yeah, the crowds are huge.
It's been really good. We gave away some great swag, too. We had some shirts and stuff. I'm sure all of you will now be very sad about that.
Yeah, I got 2 of that as well.
Oh, see, that's the reason we ran out. Reza hogged it all. So, no, it's been a very good vibe. I love the layout that they changed this year.
Yeah.
It's much better than last year. So it's just a ton of people, though. A lot of walking. I've got a lot of exercise.
A lot of walking. Great. Awesome. So you all had sessions at Ignite, which was fantastic. Now let's talk about some of the things that are like hot, new, and let's talk about that. Like, what is the experience for that for user and how that can work out? And we'll start with the workspace migration.
Yeah. So that was one of the things I had on a session on Friday was just really introducing, we are doing workspace migration from that old classic workspace to the new workspace experience. And the capability will be there to move all of those items over. So it's one of those steps to get us towards just having that new workspace experience, getting rid of the classic workspaces, to get rid of the frustration. Biggest frustration I've heard is I created Teams and it pops up a workspace. So that's the next step in the journey.
So if I have, let's say, if I'm a user, I'm using this, I have an existing workspace that I've created like 2 years ago.
Yep.
This would be at some point migrated to as a new version 2 workspace.
Yeah. So what's coming, what will be very shortly in the Power BI service, is your ability as an admin of that workspace to go in and say, I want to upgrade.
Right. And then all the content would be there. It just upgrades to the
the
second
content
version.
will still work, but now you'll be in that new workspace experience and not bound to that Office 365.
Okay, that's great. That's a fantastic feature for a lot of scenarios, because people asked, how can I copy things because I have version 1, version 2 now. This works.
A lot of people have been waiting for this.
Yes, yeah. Very useful. And this will become available soon.
Very soon. Very soon. Very soon.
Very soon.
Yes.
Okay. That's great. Now let's talk about some of the modeling features. One of the most, let's say, interesting and advanced topics talked about was the ability to have large models, because so far we've been limited on 10 gigabytes.
Yes, that's right. This is very exciting. So we announced at MBAS of 2018 that we would converge analysis services and reporting services into Power BI, primarily Power BI Premium, but it's certainly for the really high-end scalability features like large models. So this is one of the key pillars to making Power BI a superset of analysis services, because this now takes data set sizes in the Power BI service to parity with Azure Analysis Services sizes. So you can have up to 400 gigabytes if you have the right SKU. There's rough parity between the memory on the Power BI premium SKUs and the Azure AS SKUs. So this is, as I say, this is one of the kind of the major pillars to making Power BI a superset of analysis services is the large models.
Right, great. Yeah. Some questions that I get when I talk about like large models from people is that, like, for example, I have a P1 SKU, right?
Yeah.
My P1 SKU has like 25 gigabyte memory. Yeah. So can I have like a, considering this feature, can I have like a data model that the size of that data model is like 40 gigabyte?
Okay, so for example, a like-for-like comparison in terms of memory is the P3, which has 100 gigabytes of memory, and the S4 in Azure Analysis Services. And so basically you need the memory available on the capacity to fit the whole model into memory in
Right.
the current version today. Right? The advantage with Power BI is that you can have perhaps some other small models that get evicted and loaded on demand. The eviction and loading on demand is more geared to those kind of self-service BI models, so that you don't need to wait for the large model to get reloaded. So in the current version, you'd probably optimize a capacity for kind of enterprise BI without lots of small models, so you wouldn't be having too much eviction. And then your model size has to fit within the memory of the capacity, right? Just like with Azure Synapse services today. But going forward, we've talked about taking the concept of eviction and loading on demand to the next level that will really make it useful for enterprise BI scenarios. So that's the extended memory capability that we're working on, where we will not just swap data sets in and out of memory. We will actually do it at the column segment level. So you could have like a 4 terabyte data set and then just load what you need for each query, and then subsets of that data set get evicted for other queries. Right. So we've seen some really promising initial test results on that capability. So that is going to be a real game changer. That'll basically take memory out of the equation, which has been the biggest limiting factor for enterprise BI.
Would be quite useful.
That will really make it useful for enterprise BI. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Justyna.
Yes.
We should have started with ladies first. Sorry.
It's okay. Leave the best till last.
There you go. Okay. On the AI side, we have lots of things to discuss. Let's talk about new visuals in the Power BI desktop.
So the past couple of months have been pretty busy for us. We've had a lot of releases. It started out in August when we GA'd the key influencers visualization.
Yes.
So I guess to take a step back, all of these AI visuals, they're really about allowing analysts to build just normal Power BI visuals, but that are sprinkled with a little bit of additional insights, additional of AI power.
Yep.
So the key influencers visualization was really exciting for us because we were able to package up tools that would be typically reserved for maybe more advanced users or data scientists, such as regression models and decision trees. We were able to take those and actually just package it up into a visualization.
For a business user.
Yeah, so for an analyst to build and then for an end user to consume. But the awesome part is, as an end user, you don't know that you might be looking at something that is being powered by a regression model or by a decision tree. You're just looking at your own data. And it's fully interactive, right? As you interact with the report, the old model gets thrown out and a new model gets rebuilt like on the fly.
Right.
And so that was really, really exciting for us. We have, since that time, had a couple of more things come out. We had the Q&A visual that was just released last month. So that was us completely revamping the Q&A experience in Power BI.
Correct.
Where we went from this sort of pop-up experience, we now had just the visualization that was always there on your canvas. And the awesome part with that is the analysts could style it, they could configure it, they could make it match the theme, and then once they typed in a question, it would just interact seamlessly with the rest of your report.
Right.
And as part of that, we also completely revamped the tooling, right?
Yes.
So you can now add your own synonyms and do all these things without editing, like YAML files. It's all done in the context of the visual.
that was
it's
like
bananas.
the big...
It is bananas.
It is, exactly.
Yes.
Because previously you had to go to like every field, add things to that, or like build that YAML. Now it is like
painful.
Easy.
It's much better.
Much better.
And so we're going to be continuously investing that and making the tooling better because it's just so much easier, to do. And you can even kind of take it further because you can actually see all the questions that your end users ask against that data set that was published in the service. So you don't only, kind of have to guess what you should be fixing, but you can fix language and add more vocabulary based on what end users are actually asking in the service. Which is another really, really cool feature.
One thing about language, we can also bring that in the middle of this as well. Translation is something we have in Azure Analysis Services. Is it coming in Power BI sometime soon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. No, I'm serious. It is. It's going to land. The thing is, like, it's going to probably land in premium first for technical reasons,
right.
And there's work to be done on the tooling. But in terms of the data sets in premium, it's basically already there. You just can't define the translation yet. Right?
So that read-write when becomes available.
It's coming soon, and there may be, I don't want to make any disclosures right now because it's in the early phases, but there may be some alternative ways. Obviously, with XMLA, you'll be able to get the translations in.
Yes.
But in terms of tooling and integration with the tooling, the Power BI tooling, there may be some announcements coming up in terms of third-party tool integrations, and that's as far as I'll go, like community tools.
Yes.
So and to clarify too, just for the folks listening, when we say translations, we're not talking about data translation, right? We're talking about like the metadata.
Yeah, so we categorize it into 3 areas. There's the metadata translations, which is what Analysis Services Tabular supports. There's the data translations, which is what Analysis Services Multidimensional supports, in addition to the metadata translations, where you can have, get data from a different column in a different language for the actual data itself. And then there's report level translations, right, which you want your titles and some text and stuff on the report to be different. And we would like to do all of them. The first one that will land is the metadata translations. The report level translations won't be a million miles away at that point. Data translations is more work, but the report level translations we're thinking about that too.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about the parentheses in the middle of this.
It was a good moment.
Sorry. Continuing on the AI visuals, we also have the composition tree.
We do indeed. Yes. So as of the November desktop update, that is now in preview, which I hope a lot of our users are going to be excited about. I know it's...
performance point back again.
Yeah, we actually had our session yesterday, and Amir asked, how many people in the audience use performance point, and I was surprised that, it was like... a lot of people who raised their hands.
Yes.
So.
A lot of fond memories.
And there was the Proclarity one originally, right? So, the truth is, right, and I'm sorry to interject here, but the truth is that some of the other vendors, no names mentioned in Gartner's Magic Quadrant, built their businesses as front ends to analysis services, right? Exactly. Some of them went off and, created their kind of equivalent to their own kind of AS engines, but obviously without the being able to deal with the complex semantic modeling that we can deal with. That goes without saying, with hundreds of tables and complex relationships, calculations, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, they can't do any of that, but the point being that some of these vendors built their businesses as front ends to analysis services. Proclarity was in that boat as well. We just bought Proclarity because we thought they were the best one, and then we got the decomp tree, and then it went away. It came up in performance point,
were sad.
and lots of people were sad, and now they've been brought back to life.
Yes, and it is even better then.
Yes, so we tried to say, okay, how can we take what existed and how can we put our own spin on it? Yes. So we're introducing it just as another visualization, but we also figured, there's kind of a blurry line between a decomposition tree and a decision tree, and can we start bridging those gaps a little bit? So we're starting simple. There's going to be more and more features coming, but for now, as you navigate the different paths of the tree, what you're going to be able to do is, if at some point you want to do a root cause analysis and you want to know where your metric is really high or really low, instead of looking through all your different columns, you can just ask Power BI to find the path for you. And so we are going to automatically look through all the different dimensions and figure out, hey, you should probably look at this column and this value. Over time, again, I don't want to, disclose anything or commit to any dates, but we're going to be adding more and more functionality to make this even more exciting.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. That's always great news to hear. So back to Adam again.
Yay.
We have some usage metrics.
Yeah, when we talk about metrics, a lot of there's 2 different aspects of it. One is the metrics that are in your workspace, and then the other is the administration side of metrics.
Yes.
And so that's going to be what I can see from the admin portal perspective, and then also gets into what we have from an auditing log perspective. One of the biggest challenges from an administration perspective for the audit log was that it required you to be like a Office 365 global admin, and a lot of enterprise customers would say, look, we're blocked by our central IT group because they don't want to give us access to everything. And so one of the things we're doing on the admin side is we are revamping the metrics that are inside of the admin portal, so that will be coming, and then also the ability to extract the activity data from an API perspective off of the Power BI REST API, so we don't have to go through Office 365 anymore. If you want to go that way, or you're doing it today, that's still going to work.
Yeah.
But we're also going to add that capability to do it. If you're just a Power BI admin, you can extract the Power BI activity data as part of that.
Yes.
The other side of this on the Workspace, as part of the overall usage metrics retooling that we're putting into the administration experience, we're also retooling the Workspace usage metrics to match that same platform. And so it's going to be updated, freshened, and have more information for you to understand what's going in that Workspace.
Yes, that's correct. And in addition to that, there are already PowerShell scripts for things like this that I can get metrics and things like that. So that usage metrics would be on top of like this structure to build. So
from the PowerShell, from the API capabilities we have today, you can get the audit log activity.
Yes.
The usage metrics has it also includes some other information as well on top of just, hey, who's using it and activity on that. So one of the things we also want to look at is, how long did the report take to render? Those types of items,
okay.
Right?
So that's quite useful for a lot of people to know.
So there's going to be those items, and you can get the activity log today from a PowerShell perspective.
Right.
The audit log from Office 365.
Right.
So that will be.
Would it also include, like another parenthesis in the middle? Would it also include something that we have in analysis services as a log? Analysis services.
So that's my name. Yes.
In analysis services, we had this fantastic log, right? That says like this query came, this how long it takes.
So the metric information for the queries themselves.
So that metrics would be including.
So that's not going to be included in the activity data that's coming out, at least initially, as far as I know, unless you know something different, Christian. But you could do regular, like from the XMLA endpoint, you can get profiler traces and things like that.
You can get profiler traces, and long term, we've been talking about integrating with log analytics beyond everything that Adam has talked about, but that's a bit further out.
Right. So that would be like long-term future. Let's talk about.
So initially, that's not going to be included in the activity.
Right. So it starts with usage metrics, then in long-term future.
The other thing I'll throw out there, though, in terms of the activity data from an admin perspective, I've talked with some enterprise customers, and they push back a little bit on archiving that data. It's super important that you archive that data because it's a sliding window on our side. So it's only a short period of time that you potentially have.
Right.
So if you want any type of historical output, you have to store that somewhere. So make sure you're extracting it.
Right. And the default window is like 90 days or?
So it's 90 days if you use the Exchange PowerShell scripts. It's 7 days if you're using Office 365 management APIs.
Right.
I don't know off the top of my head what the window is going to be for the upcoming API. I'm hoping it's around 30 days or so, but we'll have that in the blog announcement.
Right. Great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. So back to Christian. ALM. Another fantastic feature added.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
that.
So
let's talk about
mistress.
Christian hasn't mentioned ALM at all.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier that I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, where am I? ALM. All right. So let's see. So I'm gonna tackle this kind of in kind of sequential order. Well, I'm going to finish off talking in detail about the brand new ALM capabilities that have not been publicly launched yet, but have been demoed for the first time here at Ignite. So those are unique features for Power BI that go beyond the traditional ALM processes. They work for more than just data sets, and they're going to build a REST API, which you'll be able to call that from DevOps pipelines, etc. And in fact, let's just go ahead and talk about that a bit now. All right, so I'm not going to stick to the plan. Like I just love the way that you can get.
He's so excited. That's what's going on.
So much excitement
happens all the time. I know.
He's sweating right now.
You might have to rename this as the ALM podcast.
ALM part.
Or maybe just cut out the ALM bit and put it as its own video. No, I'm just kidding.
Christian, the hot mess.
All right. Just one thing before we continue on ALM.
Have we started yet?
Because a lot of Power BI users are business analysts. They might not have any idea what the ALM stands for.
Okay.
Let's start
that much I can tell you. Application lifecycle management, and we often use the term.
Mike.
We often we often use the, you're a pro dude. We often use the term to refer to incremental deployments across environments, right? Where you have mission critical systems and you need to deploy first to a test environment. You might have some automated tests. You then might deploy to a user acceptance test environment. You have different users sign off on the new content, and then it goes to production. And for these large enterprise systems, this is very important to ensure the quality. And even the user acceptance test environment can have its own kind of organizational challenges when you've got lots of different users in different departments and lots of features in one release, and then 9 out of the 10 user groups sign off on their features, but another one doesn't. What are you going to do? You're going to have to do another, go back to square one. There's a lot of these kind of challenges, and I really like the way that the new ALM capability, that's the deployment pipelines that are coming out for Power BI. They are unique to Power BI, and they provide that kind of sanity check, that difference analysis of exactly what has been added, removed, and deleted from a workspace. It does a complete analysis of the state of all of the artifacts, and then it will allow you to synchronize. So you basically hook up your development, test, and production environments as slots, and then you hook up a Power BI workspace to each slot, right? Much like you would do with analysis services, having an analysis services server, right? So then you hook up a Power BI workspace as an instance of the test environment for the purpose of Power BI, for example, and another one as the instance of the production environment. And then you can synchronize the environments, and it will bring the metadata up to the latest version. It will retain the data, but it will bring the report definitions, the data set definitions, etc., up to the latest version. It will retain the data, which is really important, right? Just like when we deploy a new version of a data warehouse, we don't reload all the data, we just apply a differential script to bring up the schema to the latest version, same thing. And you can configure each environment to say, well, test points at the test instances of the data warehouse, blah, 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 right? And it retains the configuration. So that's the basic concept. And this concept has been around for a long time. In the relational database world, there are tools like schema diff. In SQL Server Data Tools, Redgate SQL Compare is now shipped, I think, with Visual Studio 2019 as the free version. Yep, and it's a big business in the relational database world. And in Analysis Services Tabular, there is a tool by some guy, I can't remember his name now, but it's called the BISM Normalizer. And I don't know what he was thinking when he called it the BISM Normalizer. Like, he must have been inspired when he did that. But anyway, which is the same concept. In fact, the UI looks a lot like Schema Compare for relational databases. And so those kind of, that capability that is specific to data sets will be work with the XML endpoint read-write, right? So with XML endpoint read-write, for the data set, you'll have schema diff, you'll be able to do compare and merge across repos, you'll be able to do incremental deployment, check into source control, you'll be able to script out the model and deploy across environment. All of those types of things will be coming with the XMLA endpoint read-write capability. And that's just for data sets. And but then again, the new Power BI ALM capability goes beyond that. It's much easier to get up and running. You will also be able to integrate it with DevOps using the web services, and that will give you a great way of deploying not just the data sets, but the other Power BI artifacts through automated deployment, like for automated
reports
testing.
And dashboards.
Yeah, for things like reports and dashboards that you'll be able to synchronize using maybe from a DevOps pipeline or something like that for CI/CD automated deployment scenarios like that.
That's definitely a fantastic.
Yeah, this is a big deal. This is something that mildly gets me excited. No, I'm just kidding.
A little bit more than
something close to my heart. Let's put it that way. Something close to my heart, and I love the way that the new Power BI LM capability just gets you up and running with a simplified management experience so much more easily than writing who's ever written an MS Build script? What was it like as the first time you ever wrote an MS Build script?
I was like banging my head against the wall.
I remember I bought a big MS Build. I started my first MS Build script, and then I said, you know what, I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
And I went and I bought a book. Literally,
Yeah.
I read the book.
You need a
was a-
PhD just
there
like
was a
you
thick
from
that.
book
start to
on that.
finish, and I had all the shortcuts and
Yeah.
all the little libraries, and I had all the, and yeah. So and now you look at the Power BI LM story, and you're like, well, I didn't
Just got to
need
learn
do
the
that.
clicks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
like click
it's
here,
much
click there.
much simpler.
Draggy,
much
droppy.
simpler.
Yeah.
Exactly. Clicky, draggy, droppy. That's what we
Yeah, wherever we go, we end
wherever
up
we
with-
go. That's how we roll.
Right, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a fantastic feature, especially for a lot of enterprise clients. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
most of them are coming with this challenge. Okay,
It'd also
I
be
have
good
this
for
workspace.
like ISVs doing Power BI embedded as well, being able to go through those cycles as well.
Yes, correctly, because they want to have like a stable version working, do all their testing, and then like update that stable version again. Right, fantastic. Thank you for all the explanations. So back to Justyna.
Yes.
Another exciting feature is so we had all of these AI like cognitive services features calling in the data flow. Now that is also part of Power Query and Power BI Desktop.
Yes, so again, as of the November desktop update, it's also a preview feature. The same functions that we provided you in data flows, which is textual analytics, so sentiment, key phrase extraction, and language detection, as well as image detection and integration with Azure Machine Learning, so being able to call your own Azure Machine Learning models directly from Power BI. All of those capabilities are going to be available in Power Query in the Power BI desktop.
Right.
It's still a premium feature, so I can imagine that's one of the most common questions I get. So I'm just going to preempt it and say it is a premium feature, but it does allow you to leverage those sorts of cognitive services without having to bring in an Azure subscription, without getting a key and hooking all these things up. It's just a couple of clicks, and you can get sentiment on top of your text or detect things in your images.
Do you need? So if I have an item in Azure ML, do I need premium for that?
No, that's a great question.
There you go.
You do not need premium to call into your Azure machine learning models
Because you're already paying
you're
for that
paying for the
service.
Azure
paying for the Azure,
services.
yeah.
So what we do there is, as long as the model has been shared with you, we will automatically detect all the models you have access to. Then we're going to pop up the schema of the model, and then all you have to do is map your data to that schema, and we're going to send all that data across through the Azure ML web service and create you one or more columns, attach it to your different tables in Power BI, and so you'll have your predictions. They're just Power Query steps, so every time your data refreshes, you get new fresh predictions coming in.
Right. So in terms of, let's say, licensing point of view again, so if I'm a pro user, what would I see? So when I try that button, does it come and say you don't have premium?
Yeah,
or-
so basically you need to choose a premium workspace to run those functions against.
But in the desktop, I'm not in the workspace.
No, you have to select which workspace you're going to be running in.
Oh,
So
right.
you have
So
to
when
select the premium workspace. So you have to be logged in to be leveraging these
Right.
functions.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are like non-premium way of working with that, but then I have to go and pay for like my cognitive services separately, things like that. So this makes the whole process much easier.
Yeah.
Like with just few clicks, I'll get all of those features, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we still need some sort of capacity, to run those functions
Correct.
on. If they were in Azure, you would be spinning them up as Azure services. Here, we've just tried to really simplify that experience, so they're just available as Power BI functions, where you don't have to write any code. But, there is
Correct.
that caveat that we need somewhere to run them.
Correct. So that's a good point to talk a little bit about like licensing, not that much about licensing, because a lot of people ask like why this is premium, why this is pro. One of the main critical things is that it is, let's say, premium if it needs a specific, let's say, compute power, like we have analysis services, large models, or we have to call cognitive services, or we need something that needs compute power. That's one of the things that needs premium, right?
And one thing that sometimes people say to me is they're like, well, I just want to try it out before I go ahead and just purchase premium. So there, like the recommendation is all the AI functions work against embedded as well. So as a workaround, what you can also do is spin up Power BI embedded and then try out the cognitive services. We're going to talk about automated ML in some time, so that's exactly the same principle. And then once you're done with, let's say, your proof of concept, you can always spin it down. So for partners who just want to show a quick demo to users or someone who just wants to try it out, this is another approach that's more low cost to at least try out these different
we do it all the time.
Yes.
It's easy to spin up an ASCII in the Azure portal when you're done.
Especially those like A1, A2, because you can just turn it off anytime you like.
The one thing to be aware of, though, I know it's there for paginated. I don't know about the AI capabilities, but for paginated, it has to be A4 or higher.
For the AI workload, it's A2 or higher.
Some of them have limitations.
So just
I only deal in A4s or higher.
In analysis services world, we are not talking about the smallest case. Right, okay. So let's get back to another interesting things was mentioned in the Ignite keynote about Azure Synapse.
Yes.
And the integration of that with Power BI, because like Azure Synapse seems to be like kind of Azure SQL data warehouse, like an upgraded version of that. How that would affect us as Power BI users?
Okay, well, the Azure Synapse user is primarily the data engineer, and so the Azure Synapse the environment, the Synapse Studio as they call it, allows the data engineer to have a foot in lots of different camps, right? In the data science world, you can have Jupyter notebooks. In the data warehousing world, and you have T-SQL scripts, and you can hook up multiple SQL pools and Spark pools, and you can also hook up linked services, including Power BI, and you can hook up a Power BI workspace, and then you can author Power BI reports right there in the Synapse environment without having to hop across different tools. And we plan to enhance that further going forward. And we already have a tight integration with the data platform, right? I just did a session with Charles Feddersen on Synapse, and we showed all of the layers of caching and the capabilities that you can use for query performance tuning, both in Power BI and then in the Synapse data pool. The Synapse SQL pool, as it's now called, instead of the SQL data warehouse. So we're already tightly integrated. There's a lot of things that you can do, like materialize views. You can set up that as an aggregation table, and that's really good for near real-time BI requirements, where the materialized view gets updated automatically. You don't need to refresh your imported aggregation table data. And we're going to continue down this path with the Synapse team, and we're going to continue building further tight integrations based on the aggregations capability. We're going to keep enhancing that going forward, and Power BI is definitely a first-class citizen of the Synapse environment.
That's great.
So a couple questions I've had at the Microsoft booth where people were a little confused because they're like, oh, I saw the demos of where I can create those reports in the Synapse portal. Does that mean that's how I have to create my reports? And the answer there is no. We can still connect to it you can open up Power BI Desktop, connect to it, do import or direct query. So it's a data source.
Yeah,
right?
it's an environment available, but that doesn't mean that we have to do it this way.
Yeah, so you're not losing capability. No. You're getting enhancements.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Especially everything with Synapse comes with when we have petabytes of data, we do those aggregations, composite model, but then behind the scene, my direct query, when it gets to the 7th layer, 8th layer, when I have my direct query, that is even faster than when I did it before with, let's say, Azure SQL Database.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So another thing about AI, AutoML.
Yes,
Let's talk about that.
A very exciting announcement for us. Must have been 2 weeks ago now. We went GA with AutoML and Power BI. Yay!
Yes.
So that's another technology from Azure that we shamelessly picked up and just integrated into Power BI. It's one of my favorite activities. Scout out what's there in Azure. What can we bring in? And, AutoML is a really interesting one because it basically is a layer on top of Azure Machine Learning where they've gone ahead and automated a bunch of things that a data scientist would traditionally do, such as doing your feature selection or even creating completely new features, so doing feature synthesis. So if you just provide us with a block of text, imagine you have like customer comments, we'll automatically do things like split out all the different words and create new features out of those words. Or if you have a date, we'll split it out into day of the year, day of the week, month, and so on, and figure out which of those features are useful. So there's a lot of automation that happens that you're not even aware of or you have to worry about.
Correct.
We then do algorithm selection, so iterate through lots of different algorithms to figure out which ones are the best ones we can use for your problem, and hyperparameter tuning. So each algorithm has some knobs that you can go ahead and play with, and so we automate tuning all of those algorithms to build you the best model that we can.
Right.
And so this exists in Azure as an Azure service, but it all exists, in Python, and you still have to do a lot of coding to get that running. There's a bunch of stuff automated for you, but you have to still be a data engineer at least to use it. Yeah. Whereas in Power BI, we've just created a nice front end for this. So you just have a wizard, you go through point and click. We provide you with 3 different types of models, either a binary prediction model, so you have true or false, or high risk, low risk. Something like a classification model if you have multiple categories, and regression models if you're trying to predict a number. And so those models are available for everyone to use today. You can just go through this installation wizard. You then get a report that tells you how well your model is performing. And then you can just apply that model to completely new data to get predictions on top of new data sets. And then you can use that just inside your reports. So if you want to blend your kind of descriptive insights with predictive capabilities, you can very easily do that in Power BI today now.
That's awesome. And this is available in the data flow or in the desktop as well?
No. So this one we're not bringing into the desktop as part of that AI Insights in Power Query. It's much more complex. There's a lot more involved. Like there's a whole installer that you go through. It has its own UI in Power BI service. So that would be a much larger undertaking for us to integrate. But it's part of your data flow. So when you create a data flow, a lot of people don't notice. If you go into your entities, there's this little like brain icon and a lightning bolt.
AI inside.
And you can just click on that, and that offers the ability to add machine learning models.
Lets you spark it up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, correct.
We need to get some icons like some.
Great, awesome. Closing this up, all of these ideas that all of these, let's say now these are not ideas anymore. All of these features that you've seen, these has been ideas at some point. If you have any ideas, if you think that there is something that you like to be in Power BI, which is not, there's a website, right?
Yep. Ideas.powerbi.com.
You can go there, you can put your ideas there with some explanation. Power BI team looking at that space. Vote that up, send an email to entire organization. Go forward.
Decomposition tree, I think, was number 1 when we picked it up. So, we do look at it.
Exactly. So the team is looking at it, so make sure to go there.
Word of advice on ideas.powerbi.com. If you create a new item, don't just create it and forget about it, because then it's only got one vote. You got to evangelize it and get it out there so other people know about it.
Yeah. Send it to social media. Everyone
Twitter.
Go and vote for it. Right. Another thing is where people can learn more about Power BI, where they can be in touch with others who know about Power BI and things like that.
Yeah,
which is
the community site. There's a lot of people out on community.powerbi.com. I actually did an informal poll on Twitter or something, just asking where do people go? Because we've got Facebook groups out there, we've got Twitter, and 90% of them said community.powerbi.com. So a lot of folks there asking questions, answering questions.
Yes.
From product team to MVPs to just everyday users.
Yeah, a lot of MVPs, I know they go there and answer questions. So you get answers from experts, you get answers from product group members as well. And this is like a good library of information. Even if
ton of stuff there.
Yeah, if you have a question, just you go there and search and find it.
Well, and also if you're looking for themes, there's a theme gallery, there's the data stories gallery, there's R script galleries, there's all sorts of resources.
Yeah, and it has all the other information as well, like what's going on, like what is the user group close to your location, what is the next Power BI World Tour coming, all those kind of information. So make sure, go ahead and check that out. I'm also, as part of this podcast in Ignite, we also have Surface Earbuds to listeners. So you have to enter to this.
Wait, do we get one?
Yeah, as part of being on the podcast.
That wasn't.
I want to.
That was part of
We got mugs,
go,
guys.
We should go and
We
talk
got
with them.
mugs.
Yeah, you see.
Okay,
So check this link below, like Adam. Right. check the link below.
Description below.
Description
or check
below,
the show
yes.
notes in the podcast.
Yes, but you have to be in this draw until like 15th of December. So don't miss that. After that,
You got a little while. You got
yeah.
a little bit.
After that, if you listen, just give us a like. That's still good.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam, Justyna, and Christian. It was a pleasure having
you,
you.
Reza. Thank you
very
Thanks
much.
for your time. Until next time,
Yes.
do you have anything to mention that I forgot to say, or everything good?
Nope. Keep being awesome, folks.
Yes, what he said.
Thank you. Bye.